Emma Thompson,
Yes.
you went to the Arctic.
I am Emma Thompson. I did go to the Arctic, you're right. An inconceivable joy and pleasure that I never expected to have in my lifetime. Okay, here we go. It was midnight when we arrived and it was bright sunshine, so that was very strange. Well, that's one of the rigid-hulled inflatable boats, and there's me in my husband's coat looking like a sort of pupa with a lot of teeth. There's a lot of excitement and anticipation because Greenpeace is part of my DNA. And there she blows, the Esperanza. So beautiful. And I got a bit tearful when I saw her. And I thought, am I going to actually be allowed on?
Now, everyone knows that first impressions count. So do you think your first arrival onto the ship was done in a manner in which people were left impressed? Or did they think, oh, God?
I should think they were dreading it. What, 2 actresses, 2 teenage girls and 4 photographers? Oh, God. Yeah, this is the first excursion. It's teeming with life and with very delicately balanced ecosystems. So you turn up and suddenly look down at the ground and find these exquisite little alpine flowers everywhere. Here we found millions of guillemots, all screeching their heads off, sounding like a slightly insincere, massive cocktail party. That sort of noise. Yes, that's how they looked at you, a kind of astonishment.
How did it feel to be up close and personal with Arctic wildlife for the first time?
It was a very peaceful, rather joyful encounter, actually, as with all creatures who aren't threatened by you. Ah, yes. Now, here we are at Noyellesen, which is the world's largest climate research centre. Now, yes, this was a remarkable scientist called Geir Wing Gabrielsen. You get that sense of someone who's watching something terrible happening and needing to get that message out to the world. And he gave us a lecture, which we listened to with increasing, despair. Yeah, there you go. That's increasing despair for you. He explained about the retreating of the ice. He was telling us all these things, and then you would go to the window, look out, and he would say, you see that glacier coming into the bay there? That used to be, even 10 years ago, it used to come out 50 metres further. So the idea of drilling for more fuels that are going to increase the melt is a form of collective suicide.
So you had a little posse that you went around with.
On the right and beautiful is Michelle Thrush, an actress who has been an activist all her life. Then there's me in the pupa jacket. And next to me, the gorgeous Adam, who ran the British Post.
You seem to find that the Arctic was littered with good-looking men.
Everywhere you looked. I mean, with 2 14-year-olds, never mind one's own predilections for gorgeous men. It was horrendous. I think this might be a Königsfjord. It's so beautiful, isn't it? And then ahead you can see glaciers coming down through those extraordinary black, teeth-like mountains with caster sugar poured all over them. It's an exquisite landscape, and it grows and grows and grows upon you. And that light, that's the midnight sun. It's like that 24 hours a day. So there you can see 2 glaciers pouring down. The blue ice is the ice that has the least oxygen in it. That's why it's blue. It's much more dense than white ice, which has more oxygen in it. But the ice itself cracks in the same way as ice cubes crack when you put them into water that is room temperature. So there's a great music to the ice, constantly speaking to you. Oh, that's a very good example of the art that you're surrounded by. Okay, many sculptors are represented here. I'd say that was Henry Moore, really. But I've seen a few Anthony Gormleys, Elizabeth Frick, and all sorts of people represented here. I mean, the ice sculptures are extraordinary, and that's what was a large berg that has melted down into this incredible shape. Those are... I think they're kittiwakes. I'm not very good on birds, so you'll have to forgive me.
There's an incredible amount of bird life right out near the glaciers.
Yes, they all congregate there to eat. So there's lots of plankton and little tasty bits. Puffin, puffin, puffin. That's what happened every time we saw a puffin. We'd go, puffin, 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 puffin. And we'd go and harass them. Poor things would be just utterly appalled. Because they're such glorious little birds, puffins. They've got very little wings, so they appear to have to work slightly too hard.
They appear to have left you behind.
Yes. This was when Jason, who knows no fear, said, I think it'd be very good if we could just get you on your own on a kind of small berg. I thought, well, okay, well, he seems to think it's all right. I had a sudden feeling of this absolute isolation on this beautiful piece of ice. The rabble, that's the rabble, yeah.
This man had a particular space in your heart.
This is Captain Vlad, who's Russian. He's a man of few words. Was in the Merchant Navy, joined Greenpeace, and loved it. Big, burly bloke, like a chieftain tank. There's Dinko, who is the first mate. There were 16 nationalities aboard, and Dinko was Croatian, and always smiling. I never, ever saw him without a smile on his face.
So you got on well with the crew?
I loved the crew with a deep passion. And this is Ronnie, who is the giggly cook. And one day he let 5 of us in to lay waste to his extremely well-appointed kitchen, although I've got to remember to send him some wooden spoons and a decent bloody peeler. There's Lebanese Rita, the only woman I know who could fight a polar bear and win, I think. I felt very safe when she was around. And here we have Manis, who's Dutch, one of the Arctic 30, extraordinary geezer, so buff that first time I sort of tapped him on the arm, I thought he was wearing a wooden shirt.
Ice. You found ice?
We would stand out here on deck watching this for hours on end. My hands would get so cold. I can't imagine any human being who would be unaffected by these great masses, this ever-changing world, this continent that is refashioned every year anew. And its beauty is, well, it's breath-stopping. Well, indeed. That, as you can see, is a Communal Garden aluminium builder's ladder. But anyway, we did it, and it was, there we are. But there's me and Guy at the hull, not really believing that we're standing on an ice floe in the Arctic. But we are. We were very, very happy.
So was this one of the highlights?
Yes, it was a remarkable moment. I mean, a highlight of life, never mind a week in the Arctic. It was just extraordinary. We were so lucky to be allowed to do that. And this is about 2 o'clock in the morning, the exquisite sunlight glowing off this very calm water. There's Gaia. She stood up there on the crow's nest until about 3 a.m, getting colder and colder, but just unable to drag herself away. And that's me and Michelle. Her Indian name is Good Woman Eagle Sounding. Beautiful name. I suggested mine should be English Woman Loud Sounding. She agreed with, which pissed me off slightly. I thought, bloody hell, she agreed with that slightly too quickly for comfort. This was a very exciting moment. We were coming back, we're getting very wet and cold. And then suddenly this big bearded thing with tusks popped out of the water. And it was turned out to be a group of 4 female walruses. Very curious about us. And then, of course, on our last day, we were in this funny little archipelagic fjord. And suddenly Gaia caught sight of the swaying bum. And for once, it wasn't mine. It was a polar bear. And we saw a polar bear in the wild, which is something that I never thought I would ever, ever, ever do. It was just the most magical moment ever. Yes, well, there you go. I mean, look at us. We've both got, something's going to fly into that hole in a minute. He was very relaxed. In fact, he slept. He went to sleep. There he is, going to sleep. Oh, God, so wonderful. His great big paws, pigeon-toed paws. Yes, plastics. And we came to clear up the beach that you see behind me, which from afar looked quite clear. But once you started to explore it, you realised was absolutely littered. And it's very tragic because you're finding birds with twine around their necks. You're finding nests with blue twine inside the nest. And things that have travelled thousands and thousands of miles because we have not properly disposed of them. None of this belongs on these beaches. And we collected 2 skips worth of rubbish. There's one of those Mickey Mouse toys things, probably a free gift from a fast meal. What's that doing in the Arctic?
What did the whole experience leave you with?
The whole experience left us all with a sense of great urgency. We can't drill for oil in the Arctic. We simply can't do it because an oil spill, which will happen, because it always does, will be a disaster. But more than that, we can't keep on using the things that are melting the ice because it's well, it's foolish and destructive to all of us. Unfortunately, greed and profit do rule this area of our lives. And unless we challenge that, we are in grave danger. But we have to act now. We absolutely have to do it now.